What is the greatest ducat? I'll do it myself in history. Cliff Stahl, the cuckoo's egg, noticed weird traffic on his university servers. No one believed him that there was any risk occurring. Ended up uncovering a major hacking attempt to steal missile designs and basically created internet security. I think it was missile designs. It's been a long time. Stahl also mentions meeting the NSA's chief cryptologist, Bob Morris. Years later he'd be involved in coordinating the response to the first internet worm, the Morris worm. He had the email address Stahl at @docmaster. You can find the thread on alt. Risks. Digest. The dude is an absolute poster boy for true genius. You should watch even just a minute of his documentary. It's really just a recording of him giving a lecture about the events in his book. But somehow it's entrancing. He's a total freakazoid scatterbrain. And at the same time genuine, kind, and hilarious. Jon Snow, not that one. The father of epidemiology. No one believed him that the cholera outbreak in what is now Soho was because of a contaminated water pump. He broke it. They arrested him for vandalism and held him until the outbreak suddenly ended. Edit, corrected the location. Jon Snow's entire life story is a series of ducat, I'll do it myself moments. From his mother getting the money to send him to school, to basically the entirety of his work against cholera because all his life it was always you know nothing. Jon Snow, apostrophe. That made me laugh, but then I realized Jon Snow spent most of the show trying desperately to convince people of an invisible threat and being persecuted because of it. Desmond Doss, single-handedly saved from 50 to 100 men up on Hacksaw Ridge in Okinawa. His company was ordered to retreat when they were attacked by the Japanese, but instead he said nah, stayed up on the ridge alone, unarmed, and dragged as many soldiers as he could to safety without any help. Even when he was shot by a sniper and riddled with shrapnel, he made sure they took another guy down the hillside before him. Was there a movie made about this? Hacksaw Ridge. Morris Heilman invented over 40 vaccines during his career in the pharmaceutical industry. In 1963 his oldest daughter caught the mumps. He cultured a sample from her, developed a vaccine, and injected it into his younger daughter. That vaccine is still in use and has saved millions of lives. In total, it's estimated that his work has saved 118 million lives globally. Moops. Low Major. He liberated an entire village from Nazis by himself. He's one of the handful of super badass soldiers you sometimes hear about from WW2. Audie Murphy too. Murphy's accomplishments were so crazy they had to tone it down in the movie to make it seem more believable. Nikola Tesla was tasked with lighting up the World's Fair, but Thomas Edison wouldn't allow him to use any of his patents, so Tesla had to invent a new light bulb that didn't use any of Edison's patents and could still have thousands made in time for the event. Tesla was definitely one of the most underrated geniuses of his time. I believe he died penniless in 1943. In love with a pigeon. The doctor stationed in Antarctica that removed his own appendix. Got him. Wasn't that more like, duck me, I have to do it myself. I read that in Gordon Ramsay's voice. When Nintendo turned down a collab with Sony, then Sony said, duck it, we'll do it ourselves. The rest is history. To be fair, I think it's great they did. Nintendo and Sony are so different. There's plenty of room for both. Nintendo occupies a niche that I don't think they'll ever lose. Sony and Microsoft are locked in a never-ending war. Yet Nintendo will always have their niche. Doesn't really matter who wins the console war. Nintendo will claim second place. Juan Pujol Garca was a Spaniard who created his own counterintelligence operation for the Allies during WW2. Initially, he approached British and American intelligence to offer them his services, but both countries rebuffed him. Undeterred, Garca created a fictional persona as a pro-fascist Spanish official and got himself recruited by the Nazis, who directed him to travel to Britain to recruit agents. Instead, Garca created a network of fictitious agents and sub-agents using publicly available information like newspapers and travel brochures. It was at this point that he again contacted Allied intelligence, and he was finally recruited. Garca continued his work throughout the war, and for the same operation, He received both a knighthood from the British and the Iron Cross from Nazi Germany. The Nazis never realized that he was a double agent. Yes, in the lead up to Overlord he confirmed reports that the Allied attack would come from Dover and wouldn't attack Normandy. Then, at the last moment he confirmed that the Allies in fact would attack Normandy. But it was too late for the Nazis to act on it. So afterwards the Nazis still trusted him, as they would point to him and say he was the only one who predicted the Normandy invasion. It was technical issues, as always, that meant the data got to us late. And supposedly this was one of the most important pieces of deception leading up to Overlord. Henry VIII couldn't get his way with the Pope, so he made the Church of England so he could do what he wanted. This man legit made his own damn religion, which millions still follow today, just so he could cheat on his wife. Made his own damn religion, which millions still follow today, just so he could cheat on his wife and his fourth wife. When Julius Caesar decided to just up and ducking march into Rome to declare himself the military leader, or how about his Rhine bridges that he built in a few days to cross an army over a river, then went back over and demolished it just because his army could. It's said the Germanic tribes saw his army do this and basically shit themselves. Imagine being some nomadic tribe and an invading force comes to a river, builds an entire bridge, crosses it, shits in your land, and then goes back home and destroys the entire bridge all in less than a week. The Roman armies would basically build a fortress every night for camp. They were nuts like that. The guy who started FedEx wrote a college paper about a nationwide overnight shipping company and got a C. Started the company anyways. Later, after he started it and it was struggling, he couldn't get a loan and the company was almost bankrupt. And he bet next week's payroll at the casino on roulette and won. Also got a Silver Star in the Vietnam War and now co-owns the Washington Redskins. The latter often viewed as the biggest failure in his life. It was blackjack, not roulette. During the American Revolution, John Paul Jones sailed over to England to burn down British naval ships. He succeeded, of course, and made back safely. After the revolution he was even pardoned by the town that he burned most of the ships in. And then he met Jimmy Page and Robert Plant and the rest is history. Damn gonna debone him like that. The dude in the war with wounded fingers. A doctor wouldn't amputate them, so he bit them off himself. My great grandpa did the opposite. They were gonna amputate his feet in WW2, and he said nah, so he went a while and treated his wounded feet on his own. When he came back with 2 perfectly good feet he basically said, I wanted to keep my feet and I wanted to keep fighting, and as far as I know he didn't get any kind of punishment, even though he was gone for weeks. I imagine they would have sent him back home if he'd amputated his feet so hard to call him a deserter for running off, especially if he came back to fight. George Clooney bought his own spy satellite to prove the alleged crimes of an African warlords because nobody else would. He bought satellite time, not an entire spy satellite. Leroy Jenkins, oh my god, he just ran in. Stick to the plan. The guy who made body armor shot himself to test it. I mean, I'd use a test dummy the first few times. Judging by the dude's decisions I would call him a test dummy. We had a client that had his books and processes so messed up. We were doing almost 1,000 journal entries a month to make corrections. He had 5 full-time people in accounting when he could have gotten away with 1 accountant and 1 cheap part-time billing person. He got tired of our bills and hearing us make recommendations. So he finally said I'll do it myself. All 5 of his people quit over the next few months. And last I heard, they weren't even able to bill customers. I recently just trained one of our clients' bookkeepers how to record some regular transactions and how to make the adjusting entries we send back to them at year's end. 10 years and hundreds upon hundreds of clients. And I finally found one who would listen and was appreciative of the time we took to show her what to do. This ultimately lowered our billing with the client. But her boss, our client, is a client for life now because of the value we provided. The referrals are paying more than enough dividends for the lost revenue on the initial client. I wish my company would listen to the accounting experts we hire. WTF is the point in hiring an expert and spending the money if you don't listen to them? Lamborghini building cars because Duck Ferrari. The owner of Lamborghini ran a successful tractor company. When he asked Enzo Ferrari to make some customizations to a vehicle he was about to purchase, Enzo replied with something along the lines of, "You should stick to what you know, tractor boy." Thus, the Lamborghini car company was started and allows customers to customize almost any feature of their vehicle. Another major problem besides the customization suggestions was after constantly ruining the clutch and paying for extremely expensive repairs, Lamborghini had his own tractor mechanic look at his car. They found out the clutch in the very expensive Ferrari was the same part as some of Lamborghini's tractors. But when he had it replaced multiple times prior he was billed with a massive upcharge. Netflix. Blockbuster really pissed that guy off. Interestingly enough, I used to work with a guy who was with Blockbuster at the time. Turns out Blockbuster didn't pass on Netflix. They just didn't have the capital to acquire it. Lock, stock and brand. Everything was history after that. Hey, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more daily Reddit videos.